I'm Brian. Pretty sure.
This is R&B Talks.
What's up, y'all? I don't know what that is. That's okay.
We got stuff falling down in our little...
We're being attacked.
My little slice of...
little slice of man heaven.
Yeah, I don't understand what's going on, but that's okay.
It's okay. It's all right. So how was your week, Reg?
Awesome.
I smelled a percentage of sarcasm in that statement.
Look, I mean, like,
it's like you can't get it out.
Well,
all right, dude.
So here's what I was thinking about this week, right? So it's like, I'm having some days where it's just, and I think that's part of, I think when you're trying to live right,
yeah,
you experience some attacks and stuff on those things.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are, and, as it's become a lot more as I get closer to the end of my time at Liberty, it seems like that's increasing. And it's like, there's more things trying to get in the way.
It's the devil, man.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, and you have to realize that, and I don't know if I've said this on the show. One of my favorite Charles Spurgeon stories. If you're not familiar with Charles Spurgeon, he was got known as like the Prince of Preachers. And he used to, travel around and preach and stuff, and he was a prolific writer and very good orator. And just this why he was called that. He's just brilliant. And, one of his stories was like, he was walking towards this other town to, do a preaching engagement. And, he realized he hadn't been accosted in a while. And so he broke down on the side of the road, started praying, God, forgive me for whatever I've done. I've apparently done something, because he wasn't being attacked. He felt like he should be, if he's doing God's will, then there's attacks that will happen.
Yep.
And so he said, God, forgive me. I whatever I've done, help me find my way. And it was like, he got back on the road, and he said it was like, short time after he got, accosted.
Well, if the devil's ignoring you, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
And so, then he thanked God again for, finding his path and all that stuff. Now, whether, I don't remember where I saw that. I don't remember if that was I've read a lot of Spurgeon, so I couldn't tell you where that was, if I read it or I saw that in a sermon or something. But I always think about that it sometimes. But at the same token, like our capacity for like when somebody asks you how you are doing, or how's your week gone, or whatever, like we do here every time. But and I'm not saying anything negative about that, but it's not really about the events.
Yeah.
I mean, because even in the most horrific of times, there is like hope to be found. There's like, there is lightness that can be brought into the darkness kind of stuff. Right. And so, I mean, I think it's really just a matter of like how you internalize and process through some kind of difficulty, and the levels of those depend on the individual. One man's, little fly that is barely an irritation is another man's, kryptonite kind of thing. Right. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I was thinking about that this week, because I mean, at the end of the day, right, if you're doing your job right as a husband and a man and a father, then, you're, even when you're going through like something's really irritating, or whatever the case may be, everybody's still going to be all right. I mean, like at the end of the day, now you got some other stuff that happen, right? Sickness and disease and accidents and whatever. But I'm saying in general, like for things that are not outside of mortally wounding or something like that, you're generally going to be okay. Mm-hmm. It's just about how you handle that and not let that affect your other aspects of life.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like we were talking about last week, me feeling like I'm in the waiting period. Well, you know, I realized, probably a day or two after we did the podcast, man, that's the devil, dude. Like he was just, and I'm at a point now where I'm just like, you know what's going to come is going to come. Right. Like you're right though. It's not about, the family getting sick or, oh, this person did this. That's never really what it's about. Like, it's about how that lays on you and how it pushes you and in what direction you go in. Right. Like, you just got to learn to kind of be like, it's going to be all right, man. There's nothing that can be in or out of your control. Right. So it's not on our control anyway. So
I'll tell you, dude, I struggle with though. Cause like, it's like, if it affects what I have in mind, like I always have like a plan, pseudo plan, I would say, like things I'm going to do, and I always have like a mental, like, not checklist necessarily, but like a mental thing. Like, okay, here's today, here's a month, here's 3 months, here's a year, here's what I always got that in my head for some reason. I'm just like that. I'm thinking all that. So when something happens and it interferes with that, the first thing I have to deal with is my own like ego saying, well, that's gonna, that's terrible because you can't do what this, or it's gonna delay this or whatever. And so it's like a self, I have to self-manage those almost selfish thoughts, right? That's my first thing. And I was thinking about this week. No, it's not really about me. I gotta put me aside because it's who cares what my list is the ones that I'm responsible for, that I have stewardship of, or the things I have stewardship of. Am I fulfilling that duty, before I'm taking care of other things that impact? So a long-winded answer to say, like, it's just, you have to shrug off sometimes. I should say, shrug off this like ego self talk that is like, oh, it's interfering with your plan, and that's really silly, man. I just think it's inbred. It's inbred in like all of us, I think.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I'll be like, oh, man. Even on a day for me, sometimes I'll have my whole day planned out. Like, here's the 6 things that are going to happen today. And then train wreck, and all of a sudden, you're like, well, my day's ruined. Is it? Because you didn't get to do whatever, right? But one thing I have learned to do is I used to kind of get panicky, right? Oh no, this isn't happening. Now I've learned to just kind of just receive the information and stop and think for a minute and then respond that way. Still is not always the best response, but I find that my response is better overall, because it really is. It's how I take in the information, and it's what I do with it. Yeah. And I've found that if I just get, kind of be quiet and just assimilate the information, then we're all good, right? As far as that goes. But I feel like as of late, there's so much going on that it's what you're saying is true, but I also feel like there's a level of the devil might be ignoring us sometimes because he's trying to shake the world hard enough to cause something to happen. I mean, the news this week, dude. So much, I got to say, we covered the whole Putin and Carlson interview last week. And then I got really disappointed this week because Tucker Carlson went on a Russian media blitz and began filing reports about how great Russia is and how their economy is so much better than ours. Yet the average gross income inside of a Russian household is $400 a month. Whereas break that down, the average American household is $70,000 a month. So
what about a month?
Well, $70,000 a year. So you break that down, yeah. 9,000 rubles transfers to, $100 American. He went on some kind of propaganda tour trying to compare us to Russia and how Russia was great and that we're not, and started talking about how this was going to turn him into what's the word he used? Into basically a rebel against America, so to speak. Like what I'm going to say, what in the hell are you doing? You went over there, you did a great thing, you challenged Putin, you had a great interview, and then you decide to go on a 7-day propaganda spree shooting videos telling everybody that Russia's better than we are. So now I'm starting to wonder, what was your purpose initially for going over there?
Yeah, I mean, it does definitely brings in some like what's the motivation behind some of this stuff, but I haven't really seen any of it. To be
I've watched
fair.
it all, dude.
Yeah, I'm sure I have not had zero time to do that. I mean,
well, so, and a great example would be, even in the old propaganda films, World War II, all that stuff, they would have propaganda films, right? And they would take you to a city somewhere where the enemy was, and they would stage the city to make it look clean and wonderful and send out this propaganda video. Well, he went to the Russian train station, which most obviously had been staged to be clean and running on time, and because he went where Putin's men took him, right? Putin, I feel like Putin literally used him to shoot a propaganda video, and then in the meanwhile murdered his enemy. And, there's this, for me, it just ruined the whole power of the interview he did with Putin by him going over there and basically, without saying it directly, saying that America wasn't as good as Russia and we all should be envious. And I'm like, what? I don't want to make $400 a month, and he's like, well, it costs, he goes, the average household makes $400 a month. To feed a family for a week costs $100 American. So you literally, you can't afford housing, because if you're going to feed your family, that's all you can afford to do. So how is that great? How is that fair?
I mean, I don't get me wrong. I think there's some really good things about Russian culture and their society and stuff. I do. I mean, there are things.
Well, their architecture's beautiful.
Excuse me. The Russian people in general have like done some incredible things, regardless of whatever regime was in power. Yeah. So I don't want to take anything away from that, but at the same time, the greatest economic and military force ever created in this world is the United States of America. Uh-huh. It still is. Now, don't get me wrong, we have lots and lots of issues, but we're still who there's no one else that is like us. Yeah. Still not. So whatever I don't know. This whole thing gets really gets into these like conspiracy theory pieces that, things like this that happen that you're kind of, that set you at unease.
Yeah.
You have to question, like, okay, where's that coming from? Who's pulling the strings? It's not Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
Probably. I don't know, but I'm saying that, I'm just going to disregard it and say whatever, because I don't really care. Like, I care what, like if he was saying something that now look, he could be over there and just be inspired by Putin's leadership. Cause obviously that he is a good, really good leader in a way that I would say that he's probably inspiring in that way and maybe getting wrapped up into that ravel of that kind of thing. But I don't know, man. That sounds bizarre.
Yeah, the whole thing was very unsettling. It was very unsettling. And then, of course, I don't know if you've paid attention to the Fannie Willis trial.
I'm not,
dude. Have you ever talked to someone? I'm going to ask for some lenience in what I'm about to say, but have you ever talked to someone and just known in the first 8 to 10 seconds that person is a complete and utter moron?
Oh yeah.
Welcome to Fannie Willis, bro. Welcome to a woman who is the DA of Fulton County. She ran on the fact that the prior DA was sleeping with his employees, stealing money. And what did she get found doing? Sleeping with an employee and stealing money. And then had the nerve to go into the courtroom. First of all, had her dress on backwards.
Sweet. Maybe she prefers it that way.
Went into the courtroom, became belligerent with the judge, belligerent with the attorneys, even with her attorneys at times, became belligerent. Wasn't supposed to testify, but for some reason thought it would be a good idea. Basically, like, blitzkrieged the courtroom when she was ready to testify, was loud, obnoxious, and rude, and did herself zero favors, and is now in danger of not only losing her office, but being convicted of criminal negligence. Dude. And I only watched the testimony of her and the guy that she was sleeping with. And you've also been in a room with that person. You look at them and you're like, yeah, you're lying. When you were sitting there listening to both of them, you're like, yeah, you're both lying. Both of you are terrible liars. Like, you're terrible. It's like she would be like, no, he never came to my house.
Well, I just got a twitch.
I'm like, okay. I mean, it was bad. Like, it was really bad. And I've lost a lot of faith in our entire system over the last 7 days. Like, a lot of the stuff that I'm hearing, and not because I didn't know what was going on, but because the crazy has gone outside of crazy now to, dude, really? Did you say that out loud? We're electing crazy. There's a technical term for when someone thinks they're better at something than they actually are. And I can't remember what the technical term is. It drives me crazy.
I can't either, to be honest. But
there's a technical term for it. And it is so bleedingly obvious that she is the standing definition of that term.
But so the thing is about even how reliable is our voting systems now? I mean, really, this
compromised.
You know what I'm saying? Like, really, all these people that you see, you're like, is this really working? Like, or because there's one of two things. You have corruption. Well, I guess three things. You have corruption. You have like some kind of process or technology issue where votes are not being correctly counted.
Yeah.
Or the people are just that ignorant, right? In general, that they're voting in these people. So I mean, I don't know. It could be a mix of those.
I think it's a toxic mix of all of them.
You know what I mean?
I think it's, first of all, the current, and I'm not talking about our youngest kids, our 12s and 13s and 14 years old. I'm talking our current youngest generation of adults who were raised as the snowflake, right? The millennials, they were snowflaked. They were told that they were special even when they're not special, and they could be, oh, you want to be a butterfly that's half donkey? Well, go ahead, man. It's all you, right? Like, and then you have an utterly corrupt and broken system from top to bottom. Like, there's no, from local government all the way up to the highest form of government. It's broken and it's corrupt.
Well, I can tell you, I know from personal experience that is definitely the truth. I mean, yeah. I know that from, I can't say how, but I do. I think this goes, I think people's quest for self-fulfillment and happiness is getting in the way of truth and reality. Dude,
I'm going to ask you straight up, and I've never thought this before, but this thought popped in my head this week.
Let's see it.
Do you think it's all winded down, man? Do you think we're coming up on the last days? Like, because I mean, men think they're women think they're men, people think there could be animals.
But we've had times in other cultures, like if you look at Greece,
Yeah.
Roman culture.
Yes.
I mean, that was the same. I mean, you still had the same type of
Boy love and all
yeah,
that garbage.
I mean, look, I mean, you still had all that. So now to what level? I think because our technology is the way it is, we get to see more of it than what obviously than the previous different societies that were brought up didn't have, the internet or the social media and all that stuff, or the propaganda machine that we have now with the media. I mean, that's awfully
powerful.
Yeah. So, I mean, to say that it's like worse than any other time, no. Even to say that our government and the political circus we have now is like, worse than it ever had. No, even then, I don't even think that's true necessarily. So it is more than it has been in our U.S. existence.
Yes.
Okay, I can say that,
Yeah.
Would I say that it's beyond repair? No, but it'll get there.
I feel like it's a snowball downhill right now.
But I feel like, I tell you this, dude, I really feel like there's I think some of that stuff though is changing. It does feel like, and it could just be my own naivety. But it does feel like in general, the people that I see and I talk to that live around here in my communities and stuff aren't ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, it's just these, I don't know.
I think there are still bastions of civil people, right? I think where you and I are living is one of those, right? Where it's not completely off the hinges, right? But I'm just, I go back to.
You know what? You know what else will get you off the hinges?
I think it's our sponsor.
If you have technology problems.
Yeah.
And our sponsor can help put those hinges right in the right place.
All right. Sponsor, EMTCC. Take it away. We all learned a thing or two about viruses over the last few years.
Are we talking just computer viruses or?
Yeah.
But have you thought about protecting your computer against the latest threats?
At EMTCC, they've learned how to fight off viruses faster than Marvel can put out another superhero movie.
Woo! Don't know where to start? They can help you develop a plan and implement strategies for that situation.
Reggie, did you know they are set up with all the latest and greatest technology to help prevent cybercrime?
I did not, but now I do.
Absolutely.
Visit www.emtcc.net to set up an appointment or give us a call at 1-888-551-2770.
Mention R&B Talks and receive 10% off your initial appointment. Remote and on-site options are available.
And we're back.
As I was saying before we went to break, if anybody's familiar with Ronald Reagan, everybody knew Ronald Reagan had a son that was gay. But he said something that made a lot of sense when they were talking to him. And this is back in the early 90s when they were talking to him. And they asked him, what's the best way to be gay in America? And his response was actually made sense a little bit. And it was just live. He said, I don't talk about my sexuality with other people. I don't use my sexuality for gain or for loss. I am a person. And if I want people to treat me like a person, then I have to just live. He said, just live like a normal person, live like a person who just wants to make a living and live in peace. Now, regardless of my position on that and how I feel about that situation, I feel like if we just got to that point where everybody just went, you know what? So I want to be half Pegasus, half unicorn. I'll do it when I'm at home and I'll just live. Right.
Well,
but we have like it's like a giant, sparkly, ridiculous show that's constantly going on, you know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm at right now, is I feel like I'm caught in this giant, sparkly, anti but pro woke, but anti woke, but pro conservative, but anti conservative, gay, straight, transgender circus that just
see, but I don't see it, again, this is, I'm not inundated with that stuff. I realize all that's out, like, because I really think you're gonna see media outlets put forth the ridiculous because it's ridiculous.
well, because it's ratings.
You know, I mean, now I do know close to home several people who do this thing, and but I don't associate with them because it's like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
But here's what I would say about all that. And I think this has been echoed by many people already throughout the last few years. And that is like, look, you're an adult. We're going to treat you like an adult if you want to be whatever you are. But I have the freedom to recognize your idiocy. I mean,
Yeah.
you cannot force me to say something or not. I mean, like, that's ridiculous. And as soon as you start going after kids,
Yeah.
we have a big problem.
Yeah.
Because look, that's where it is. That's what it is. It's like the whole Jordan Peterson thing
Yeah.
that you were talking about, not on air, but he says enforced speech.
Yeah.
No, that's absolutely insane. You cannot force somebody to say something.
Yeah.
No. Now you can be civil, you can be polite, but those aren't laws that should be like put on the books that, hey, no, it's a law that you must be polite, or it's a law that because polite becomes subjective.
Well, but you also have to, it's the freedom of speech thing, man. If you want freedom of speech, if you truly want the freedom to say what you want to say, you have to give the other person the freedom to say what they're going to say, whether you love it, hate it, like it or not.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, enforced speech is just that. It's the theft of free speech. You know, and it's hidden behind the locus of well, we're just trying to be fair and equitable.
Yeah.
No, you're not. No. So,
Well, because again, this is the whole thing about the whole message of the world says you control your destiny. You are important. You deserve to be happy.
yes.
You this.
Yes.
No,
No, you don't.
you're not entitled to anything. You don't deserve anything.
You're entitled to what you earn.
Sorry. That's the rule of nature. If you want to see how cruel, like, really nature is, in the fact that it has no morality involved in it whatsoever, look at Nature is Metal on Instagram, or Nature is, I think there's another one, but Nature is Metal, right? Look, that's raw nature being what it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's the world we live in. That is not some fairy tale land that is architected with, all this stuff. Now, according to the Bible, we'll get to the point where there is some kind of new birth and new realm that we go. Well, I won't get into that in here, but right now, that's how it is. I mean, there's no, like, in other words, a lion is not morally obligated to treat a gazelle a certain way.
Yeah, he doesn't hug him before he eats him.
And he doesn't he's not aware of a right or wrong in anything. He's just, that's his prey.
It's instinctual.
He's going to have a meal.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter. A bear is really bad. A bear, like, a lion actually, and like certain other big cats are designed to, like, they'll grab the neck and cut the airflow off with their mouth, and that'll, like, kill them that way, then they'll eat them.
A bear just mauls you.
A bear doesn't care.
Yeah.
He just starts eating.
He just wants a sandwich.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing. The same thing with like the African wild dogs.
Mm-hmm.
They're in competition for their prey, so they're eating that and their prey up as soon and as fast as possible because they know the hyenas and everything else are going to be. Anyway, so the long story to get around. Look, nature isn't moral. It's not. Yeah. It's just there's instinctual drives and functions that happen that are served.
Well, I think Bear Grylls said it best. The law of nature is that there is no law. It's just nature. It's just natural reaction and instinct, right? Like there's no, this lion feels bad, so he doesn't kill this gazelle because it's smaller than the next one. No, the lion looks at the gazelle like we look at a roast beef sandwich. It's just dinner, right?
That's it. It's not there. It's not like, again, they don't have a sense of being a lion or being this or that. They serve instinct and drive. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, speaking of a sense of being, our subject today, the decentralization of music.
Well, yeah,
which is a very interesting topic, honestly, as I researched it, and it literally ebbs and flows, and we'll go through that later. But
here's the thing about. Oh, wait a minute, there was something else. I'm sorry.
Okay.
One more thing before we get to there, because I got a train of thought.
You have a train of thought?
Yeah.
Let's get back on that train.
I don't usually like Jon Stewart. Okay, I don't really find him very funny.
I don't find him funny, and I honestly find him a little ridiculous.
Yeah. However, I happened to watch a Daily Show episode, or at least part of it, or something this week. Okay, and I forget what. Maybe I wrote it down. Tackles the Biden-Trump rematch that nobody wants. That was the name of the episode. And I thought that was hilarious, right? I'm thinking, exactly. And I thought, well, I have to watch this now because if Jon Stewart makes sense, I don't know what I'm going to do. And not that he hasn't in some ways made good points before, but like this one in particular, though, was like so on the, because he blatantly said that, it's up to the voters to scrutinize the candidates. They're supposed to, affirm how good they are to us.
Yeah.
We have the two oldest candidates for president ever.
And arguably the two worst possible choices.
And that's the thing, like, and then he showed what was really awesome, though. What he showed was like all these people interviewing about Biden's cognitive ability or whatever.
Yeah.
They all said the two same words, right?
Uh-huh.
Sharp, focused. Every single one.
Yep.
Used the same descriptive.
He's sharp
word.
and focused.
And anybody who says that's not people dancing to a tune, you're out of your flipping mind. Now, the other thing is what he said was like, look, you have Trump. Trump says some obscene, some stupid stuff too. And he is, look,
he's a little crazy.
He is crazy, right? I mean, like, and I don't particularly dislike or like Trump. I've never been like a Trump hoorah guy. Matter of fact, I always kind of hated the fanfare and like the cheerleading,
garbage, the whole. Look, dude.
Anyway, let me hold on.
Go ahead.
But the fact is, though, is you have two elderly men who break the record for how old they are running for president from the record they set before.
Yeah,
those same two.
Yeah,
running again. So it's like, it is maddening because you have the most powerful nation in the world, the most powerful job and most impactful job in the world being put up for election to two guys who shouldn't be running, that shouldn't be president, either one of them.
Well, I'll sprinkle another layer of it. Sprinkle another layer on there.
Give
for
me some.
Reg. You ready?
Give me some.
You ready?
Yep.
So there was a interview with Kamala Harris, and I felt like this was kind of a tell because the Democratic National Convention, a lot of people believe that at the DNC convention that Biden's going to step out and a new candidate's going to step in. Now, who that will be, I do not know. But Kamala Harris was asked an indirect question in an interview. I can't remember what channel. I want to say CBS, but I'm not 100% sure, so don't hold me to that. And she literally uttered, almost without needing to, "I'm ready to step in and serve."
Okay, look.
So what that would tell me is, number one, well, it tells me one of two things. Either she uttered that and that was an admittance by her that she knew he wasn't fit to keep in it, and that was a slip up, or there is already a plan in the works for Biden to step out at the DNC and someone else to step in. Now, there are many theories on who will step in. I have heard Hillary Clinton again. I have heard Michelle Obama. I have heard Gavin Newsom. I have heard all these names, and I have no other than Gavin Newsom, I have no opinion, right? My opinion's been voiced on the other two plenty of times. But I feel like the Democratic Party's skirt is showing, and they don't know how to cover it up. And I also feel like the Republican Party's skirt is showing because they've been bending this whole thing, because all along they were, Trump no, Trump no, Trump no, Trump no, Trump no. And then all of a sudden, when the Democratic Party stutters, all the candidates fall away, and the only one left is Trump. Ronald McDaniel of the RNC could have simply said, "We're not going to let you be our candidate. We're not going to have you as the candidate for the Republican Party." But no one has ever attempted from the Republican side to stop him, which they could have. There was many ways they could have done it.
Well, okay. Let me first on Kamala.
Yeah.
I can't stand this. And you know what? We ain't going to go there and do this.
Well, I also can't stand the unseen being seen by the seen.
You have this, and that will be, and then from there we will, and that's how we shall, and go. Yes.
I can't wait to see that on video.
It's ridiculous, dude.
It's stupid, isn't it?
It is ridiculous. I mean, come on. Look, here's the thing about all this. It is a circus. This is what everybody, and I'm telling every single person to please. It's a circus. This is not like a real power thing for anybody who's, I mean, come on.
I feel like the last real election we saw was when Clinton and Bush ran against each other.
Man, I don't know, man.
I felt like that was the last one where there was some level of sanity during the election process, right? I don't like Trump either. I'm the bigliest. Like, well, dude, you don't have a grasp of the English language. You're disqualified.
In the Jon Stewart show, he played a clip, and I never saw this before. He goes, "Let's talk about magnets. You put a magnet on and you put some water on the magnet. It's no longer a magnet." I'm like, he said that.
Yeah.
I thought that's hilarious. Yeah. But I mean, here's the deal. I think that Trump has more cognitive ability than Biden. Yes. Absolutely. I think that's a given.
But I honestly do think he is the worst sufferer of Trump derangement syndrome, because he literally believes that he somehow in 4 years, if he does get elected, is going to completely turn our country around after COVID and $33 trillion. You didn't do it when you had 4 years. You did some stuff. I'll give it to you, right? I'll give it to you. You did some good things while you were in office. As much as I don't like him as a person, I'll say that he did some good things while he was in office. Far more than Biden has done, right? And I'm not knocking Biden on that front. I'm just saying, if you're putting a notch on the wall for who did more, Trump did more, right? But I think I think the January 6th thing, which wasn't an insurrection. I don't care what you say.
Well, it was motivated and it was staged. That, but
what you've got is a guy who's in love with his own animus. Like he believes he is the savior. Like he's going to save our country. He's going to one man alone save our country.
Okay, but here's the thing I would say though. I don't know. There is a lot of actions that he's taken that do not equate to that either. And I don't, so it's like one of those things where he says some stuff and I'm like, okay, well, it's just weird. And okay. And then he does some stuff that I'm like, that's pretty awesome. And at the same token, it's at the end of the day, you're still just like,
but I think we're in the middle of it's just like you said, it's almost like a game of who can be worse and win. Right. Like
who's going to crack up first really. Yeah. But anyway, so I just found that awesome that Jon Stewart, and he look, I mean, I don't care for Jon Stewart that much.
Well, I tell you what, I think about Jon Stewart like I think about Bill Maher. Yeah, I don't totally dislike Bill Maher. I don't think that everything that he says is wrong. Do I think he suffers from a severe case of Trump derangement syndrome? Yes, he does. Do I think that he went out and said that we should have a doddering, elderly, dementia-ridden president? Yes, he did. By saying that Biden has done a wonderful job and is completely in control of his faculties and all the things. But from time to time, Bill Maher will make a really good point. Yeah. He will hit something right on the head that you can't deny and go, wow, I mean, you might be right, dude.
But I think this is indicative of like how we're missing that critical element in our society of debate and cognitive intellectual conversation.
Well, yeah, open dialogue, man.
We're missing it completely. I mean, because I mean, you're discouraged from talking anything about that in your work. You're discouraged from talking about anything like that in your family. You're discouraged. I mean, like everywhere, discourages the talk of like really what's like most important to a lot of people.
Yeah,
and that to me is not okay. Like you can't just have a society built around everybody's siloed, segregated opinions that do never coincide with other views.
Tribalism is more prevalent now than it's been in the last 100 years.
And even when I've tried, and it's like it just seems to, it just seems to hit a wall. It's like people just don't understand how to like have a good because let me say this. My personal issue with any of this, with anything conversationally, I should say, is that if I really believe in something, it's going to come out strong. It's going to be with, pretty pointed, and I'm going to have a lot of stuff behind it. Right. Yeah. And what that ends with most people, that it's intimidating when they come to talk to me, if they have a different view, and that ends up with this, like, where they think I'm like a bully or I'm too aggressive, all that stuff. But it's a passion about what I believe.
Yeah.
Now, I stepped away from doing this on social media. I used to do it all the time, was like engaged all the time. I stopped. This has been years and years ago because it was social media and it was getting nowhere. It was like nothing ever. There was no conversation I ever had on social media that was like a good back and forth.
Yeah.
That illuminated some point or whatever. Yet I've had conversations in person that were like that, but we're discouraged from doing that in person to anybody. So it's like, it just seems, I'm just disappointed in our whole societal pressures that we have right now.
Well, I think I'm the other side of your coin. I'm not going to argue with you. I know my right and my wrong. I'm confident in what I believe. I have no problem talking about it. I don't care when someone attacks what I believe or what I'm after. I don't react vigorously. It's just I got to keep going, man. Like I can't I can't get into it with you, right? And it's not that I don't want to talk to you. If you want to sit down and have a rational conversation with me, and we may not disagree, we may still wind up being friends. We may not like each other's opinions, but I come from a generation of people where we were able to live different lives and have different views of the world and still get along.
But the people of our generation, though, have switched from, and they've left that behind, and now have been inundated in the institutions too long.
Well, that's true because I blame our education system.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, like they've
you're indoctrinated through college, and I have good people that I knew were good, solid, moral people that have just lost their mind. But I didn't take it personally. I had to end a friendship and I told them, I still love you, still think you're a great person. You're just lost. And unfortunately, I can't continue to carry you when you're reacting and responding to me in the way you are because you're attempting to affect my ebb and flow. And unfortunately, but also here's something that's very harsh, Reggie, about me. And this is something that many people have had conversations with me about. And this is a reason why in the church, sometimes I get in a lot of trouble. I don't care if you don't like me. Like there's no part of me at all that cares if you disagree with me.
Yeah.
There's no part of, and it's not that I think I'm better than you. If you're not going to pour into me something positive, I'm not going to pour anything into you. So when you come to me and say, Brian, I don't like you, I don't like your ideas. All right. I turn you off like I turn off a light switch. It's a weird thing that I have this capability of doing where I can just be like, done, and walk away. And sometimes it doesn't work out the best. I will say that, but I do not fear being disliked. I do not fear being hated. I do not even mind it in some cases, because if I'm not standing up for what I believe and stern and solid in what I believe, then I would care what all those people thought of me.
Well, and I'm pretty much at the same point. I'm always looking for truth. So I'll say this, I'm always looking for truth. So I always, I want to hear what people have to say. And this has been a while ago, but when you're in a debate of some sort, even a conversation where you have different opinions about something, one of the, you can read various different debate or argumentative books or opinions, but a tactic, but it's really just a way to see what's going on, is you got to listen intently and ask questions. Okay. This is what I do. I'll listen to somebody or read what they say, whatever it is. And even questions that I ask get met with aggression and like, oh, you can't, why are you asking me that? You can't ask me that, right? That's what the problem becomes. Like that's in the conversations I have, that's where it starts. Yeah. I don't really care if they don't believe what I believe or see me in whatever light. I don't, but I'm an inquisitive person. Like I just want to know.
Sometimes I ask questions just because I don't have enough information.
Well, but I mean, you don't, I guess it's just because everybody's so damn sensitive. And I'm sorry, but it is primarily on the left. It's so sensitive. Certain things you shouldn't say, or this or that, or label this or that, or
whatever it's going to be.
Whatever it is. I mean, even certain things like, oh, your tone is aggressive.
You're committing violence against me with your words.
Yeah. I mean, like,
you obviously don't know what violence means.
How are you going to have a conversation then? I mean, if you want to talk to a guy like me who is not afraid of you, I don't care what you think, in a way that I don't care what you think about me, I should say. I'm really like staunch in my beliefs, and I'm going to put my flag in it. And if I'm open to information, but guarantee I have plenty of it to back what I believe and what I do. And just because you're not ready to have a conversation with a guy like me doesn't mean I'm I'm scary. It just means I know what I'm talking about, and I'm firmly in. And I just don't. You're just not up to it. I mean, that's really it.
It goes back to what I said before, Reggie. If you truly believe something,
yeah.
If you know in your heart that it's true, but you feel it necessary to scream, disavow, act like a fool, and do all the things that they do to stop you from saying what you want to say, then how strong is your belief actually when you can't put anything behind it that's factual and that, or any educated view behind it? Like for somebody to walk up to somebody and go, well, you're just a fascist. You don't know that person. You don't know that that's true. You've not done any research. You haven't spent any time with them.
How are you defining fascist?
Yeah, what do you define as fascism? I mean, it's
because you have a different opinion I do if you're calling somebody like that a fascist or whatever the case may be.
You know, or you're a bigot,
or you're a communist, or you know, do you even know what that is? Like,
it's like the whole thing with socialism. Most of the people that are being accused of being socialist, by definition, are not socialists. They're more like Marxists.
Well, it is Marxist. But
although
Marxism is
it's a form of socialism. But if you look at the purest, if you look at the purest definition of a socialist, none of those people out there, including in the government, the democratic socialists, I don't think they have a clue what that means.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I just thought I wanted to throw that out there because I found it intriguing, and I did think it was funny. I'll post a link down there in the comments so people can watch it. But he wasn't saying anything I don't agree with. So there's that. Yeah. So yeah, let's get on to
the decentralization.
Let me say this: it's really like the decentralization of culture that leads to a change in the music industry.
Yes.
Okay, so when we grew up,
mm-hmm.
there was certain music that really defined the eras we grew up in.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? 80s. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, everybody knows songs from the 80s. Like, okay, that's identifying with that 80s, right?
Flock of Seagulls, baby.
The 90s, you know what that, we know what that is and all this stuff.
Era,
all that stuff. Yeah, yes. I mean, like there's definite music that defined our era, right? And you get to the post-streaming age now, though, and all the algorithms and stuff that kind of just say, hey, you like this and this. Who is there a music of the 2020s?
I think if you're going to look at, first of all, I think we got to witness something in the late 90s going into the mid part of where we're at in the 2000s. I actually think we saw the disbursement of music happen all in one swing with things like Napster and LimeWire and Pirate Bay and all those things that went on. And then you saw the music industry snap back with Spotify, Pandora, Apple Music, because I think the music industry, I think the people that were making the most money in the music industry understood very clearly that it's the internet that's stealing the music from the money from our pockets for the music. So we're going to have to use the internet to control it. So I think that's one way of looking at the decentralization of music, just because it's now into the hands of, I mean, what other streaming services for music is there other than Spotify, Apple Music, or Pandora?
Oh, there is lots.
But I'm talking about, like, what are the names? It's kind of like Sony, Arista, and when the record labels that were big, right?
Yeah.
So, but if you're looking at, for an example of what music should be today, or what I would consider today's music, I mean, I hate to say it, but honestly, I think it's this mashup amalgamation style music where it's, like country's merging with rap, and rap is merging with rock, and rock is merging with country.
I don't even think that's true though, man.
I think honestly, I don't think you have a artist. I think you have a genre.
But I don't even think you have a genre though, let me let's go into this. Rick Beato. This is where I got this from, because he was talking about the Usher halftime show. Okay. And it brought all this to my, I was like, I had really thought about it, and I was like, yeah, this is worth talking about. But he was talking about Usher during the halftime show. He was saying Usher's been around
a long time,
right?
Since the late 80s, I think.
I mean, he's been in the music business decades. He's a worldwide known star.
Yes.
And he was saying, what artists that we have today could do a halftime show?
Taylor Swift would probably be able to do one.
But again, where she's been around for decades.
Yeah.
Beyonce been around for decades, right? There's not a new artist we have today that's global known that would be suitable for a halftime
There's
show.
an example of that too. A couple of Super Bowls ago, when The Weeknd did the Super Bowl, it was the lowest rated Super Bowl halftime show I think they had in a while. Because, I mean, for all of what he is, and he may, for all I know, be a fantastic artist. Nobody my age knew or cared to know who The Weeknd was.
Yeah.
So we tuned out, right? So there's this, I think you're right in the sense that is there somebody in the modern age? Now, in my opinion, there's a couple of bands I would love to see do it, but that's a personal thing for me. Well, I would love to see a Teddy Swims or a Greta Van Fleet or a Jelly Roll go out there and do a halftime show. Now, would they be great at it? I don't know.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But again, it'd be like the case of The Weeknd, where it's not going to attract the audience because they're not known. They're not global artists, and that's because you don't have that global release schedule anymore. You know, like when big artists used to come out with records before all the internet stuff, you had months and months of releases, and you had a single come out months before, you had all this promo stuff come out, all this stuff to have this big worldwide release.
Yeah. Perfect example of that was Prince when he did the halftime show.
Well, Prince, I mean, all if you think about it, all the big artists that because that are the hugest ones, Taylor Swift, for instance, well, that's how she got there, because she was way back before, right? I mean, any of these people. The thing about music now, though, is that you're led to your musical direction from these platforms by algorithms. Yeah. Well, you listen to this. Well, check this out. And and by and large, to actually make music and make money at it anymore is pretty tough. Yeah. I mean, it's changed dramatically. Yes. Like it's I don't even know how you would do it anymore, right? To be an original artist, to go out there and do that.
Well, but I think part of that too is what people see the music industry as a whole, what artists see it as a whole. I mean, if you look at, it used to be that when a band would start out, they were looking to make it big, right? They wanted to be a long-term musical influence, right? Well, now we live in the age of the one-hit wonder. I just want one hit song to make me a couple of $1 million, and then I'm out.
Well, that's what I mean. I know, and I know a lot of passionate musicians that it's their passion. It's not they don't want to be a one hit wonder. They want to do music. I mean, like and they're so talented and and it's like you don't have a vehicle for that to be a thing anymore, really. There's no, like, signing to a label anymore is really not going to do it for you. Like, I'll give you an example. The guys from Periphery who are like this technical metal band kind of thing. They'll tell you they don't make their money from their music sales, really. They make their money from endorsements by the companies and stuff. Yeah. Like, that has to supplement their income, or else they wouldn't make. And I still don't. They're not. I mean, it's not like they're like this huge band or whatever. But they're still. Well, they are, but they're not like a global, star, legendary sensation or whatever. But just to give you, I mean, but that's it. Like they have to do all these other things. It's not just music in order to make an income. It's like all these other things with that.
Dude, we live in the day of the side hustle, right? It is what it is.
So the other thing about the decentralization is like these crowdfunded music things. I think it's awesome and not in a way, because you know, it gives the artist complete control over how they can produce an album and everything else. You're connecting directly to a fan base. They say, hey, here's an album. Here's your perks. You know, they're funding the creation of that album, getting direct access to like studio. That stuff is just wicked cool. I really, really like that. But how far is that going to go? Only to this fan base. You're not getting any kind of there's no promo outside of that, really, right? So, and a lot of artists are doing that now.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people are moving to as well, too, because the streaming.
What is it, SoundCloud?
Well, no, that's one
of those that's
you can put up your own crap and
and you can also have fans fund money for your albums and things like that. So that's one of those, yeah.
But I mean, even GoFundMe's and Kickstarters and stuff, they're all in there too, right? Indiegogo, blah blah blah. But you're still not, the streaming platforms, because if you produce an album or something, put it on a streaming platform, the amount of income you get from that is so terrible per listen or whatever. It's really, really, really low.
When you think about it was what made Garth Brooks pretty smart, because when Spotify and Apple Music came a calling, Garth was like, peace, I'm going to do it on my own. And he made millions by making his catalog only available through his website service. Now I think it's available on iTunes now, but it for the longest time, it didn't work. You had artists like Prince who had his own albums coming out digitally, and they weren't making a ton of money. But here's the thing that makes me kind of leery about streaming services in the general sense is Jay-Z came out with a streaming service. I can't remember the name of it, but it very quickly pretty much tanked because he went up against Apple Music and Spotify and Pandora, which we now know to some degree or another have music industry money behind them. Yeah. So, because it's another way for the music industry to control what's made, right? So, there's this it's the power of being in the hands of a few, dude. Like, it's what decentralization is, right? Like,
well, when you look at the Billboard top charts, it's very much either it's artists who've been around forever. That's really all that's up there. And then you have, like, if you look at certain genres and stuff, you see, some of the cultural different stuff. But even then, there's also a shift in what music anybody's listening to anymore.
Time out. I gotta take a pee break. I gotta pee bad, dude.
Okay.
Sorry. Stay on that.
Just push it back on the two legs.
Okay. I thought you better stop having to.
Hell yeah. Shut the door. Well, you know. Okay, now you got to move that back.
How far?
It's got no, not back. You pulled it up, so it kind of bring it in, and to your left. Keep going to your left.
To my left.
Yep, right there. Hold on. Turn it this way a little bit, like clockwise. Whoop, whoop, right there. Right there. Right there.
This beer bottle so it doesn't look like I'm just getting drunk up on the show.
Hey, we're saucy.
All right. All right, good.
Another key thing, with the decline of, there's a decline of music in our culture.
For sure.
Okay. And really it's because, and this is one point that Rick Beato made. They're not kids today aren't engaged with music like as they were, you know, there's all these other things, TikTok, YouTube's, video games, whatever, that pull everybody that it's just not music isn't as much of a importance anymore. And the ones that are still those artists that have been around for decades.
Well, my son is a great example. My oldest boy, you know, Caleb, he Pink Floyd, Rush, Nirvana, Soundgarden, Sublime. Those are all bands that he loves. And he knows who they are, right? Now, I will take a little bit of credit for feeding some of that to him, but like other than like the Greta's and stuff like that, he doesn't really have a taste for anything new. But, you know, I said this one day and I felt like I was being harsh when I said it, but then I thought about it and it's just true. Somebody asked me, they said, Brian, what do you listen to on the radio today? I was like, nothing. Because it's all, if you're listening to a modern radio station, it's either a song that's all about, you know, rubbing up on somebody, which I'm not interested in. It's a foul F-word laced, you know, or it's a country song that's modern country is not actually country, it's pop. So, you know, like everybody loves Morgan Wallen. Okay, I get it. His songs are catchy. I've listened to a lot of his songs. If you asked me if Morgan Wallen was a country artist, I would say no. Not at all. He's a pop kind of crossover with some rap artists because, you know, he's got backbeats and all those things. You can tell that there's machine-made beats in his songs. So no, dude, country is stringed instruments and storytelling, right? Dude, and I don't, you know, if I really want to listen currently, if I want to go listen to really good music, what I'm listening to is anything current would be like Billy Strings. You know, I think he's an amazing guitar player. He's made a great living off of bluegrass. He's kind of made his own niche in the genre without leaving behind his roots. You know, listening to some, you know, like I listen to a lot of what I would refer to, credit to my stepmother. She coined this term for me, newgrass, which is, you know, Old Crow Medicine Show, you know, Billy Strings, you know, Trampled by Turtles, all those bands that took a little bit of electric and fed it into bluegrass.
Yeah.
And kept its roots, but made amazing albums.
Well, okay, that brings us to another point to all this, is that I would firmly believe that some of the decline in music is just the poor choice of the industry people trying to push certain things that people just don't want to listen to.
Yeah.
Another Rick, because actually it occurred after I watched this other one, another Rick, and it happened to be this one. Whenever I see a video that says, if you're a musician in 2024, you want to see this. I'm like, okay, well, I'm sort of a musician, although I haven't played in a very long time.
Which makes me sad, by the way.
I know. Well, hey, he Chart Cipher is an AI statistical site for different Billboard chart type of things that they contact him and send him some data. Hip hop declined from 2020 to 2023 from 58% of the Billboard chart streaming charts being hip hop in 2020 to 27% in 2023. So hip hop's kind of taking a dive, and he Rick made a great point here. It's like, we're just tired of it. It's like the same trap beats and all that kind of stuff. We're just done. I think it's just gotten old.
It's just a blend up of the same thing pushed out a little differently.
Country though has increased by 150%. So country music.
I mean, Beyonce just made a country song, dude.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, and rock increased by 58%, right? So, and what's telling about that is like there is an instrument preference, like I should say prominence in the songs, right? Guitar prominent songs are trending up. Piano trending songs is going down, right?
Okay.
Songs seem to be getting slower that are increasing rather than the 100 to 119. This is like under 79 beats per minute. And then also songs with no profanity are trending way up.
Yeah.
Songs with profanity are trending way down. Okay. That was interesting. And also too, the songs are starting to get shorter again.
Yeah. I don't understand that. Like there's a lot of songs out there that are, they're really short, like they're super short.
Yeah, under 3 minutes.
Like some Morgan Wallen songs and some other songs that they're like 2 minutes and 38 seconds.
Yeah. Well, the problem is like you had the Beatles who did under 3 minute songs.
Yeah, but they did fantastic.
But those 3 minutes contained all kinds of stuff, and the songs were way more complicated than anything they're doing today, right? Yeah. I mean, there's no comparison there, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of trends here with the music stuff that I find fascinating. And I'm frankly just glad I'm not in it. I mean, because it's just, Well,
but I don't want to go totally down that hill because dude, maybe one day I'll go into all of it, but music takes a special spot for me for a lot of reasons in my life.
I know.
And I'm still a searcher, right? Like I will go down the rabbit hole and find really good music. Now it's not like mainstream, a lot of it, and it's fun to catch one of those artists when they're not major and watch them stay true to what they sound like and become major artists, right? But I don't want people to completely give up, right? Because we talked about this, Struggle Jennings, those kind of guys. That's legitimately good music. Tom McDonald makes great music. Guys like that are really out there trying to make something that has substance, right?
Yeah.
So, but you're a different kind of musician too, Reg. I've listened to you play, and when you play, and I see you play, you are literally lost in what you're doing. Like there's nothing else going on around you.
No.
And I feel like that is where great music is made, right? When you can let everything else go, you can go down the list. John Bonham, Neil Peart, all those guys, they let whatever was going on around them was gone. And the only thing in front of them was the drum kit.
That's it.
And that is where I think for any musician, not just drummers, but guitar players, bass players, when you go to that place where I'm going to create something today and nothing else around me is going to affect my ability to create that, that's where great music is. And the problem I think you've got nowadays is, first of all, auto-tune has lost its mind. Everybody's lost their mind with auto-tune because there's a lot of these artists, when you hear them live, they're terrible because the record companies auto-tune them to death.
Yes, they do. Some of them.
Synthetic music is become prominent. A lot of these artists don't actually have bands.
Okay, there's a reason for that though. So that goes along with the way the music industry is now.
I know.
You don't have that $1 million budget to do a record anymore, right?
true.
It's like, you know, it's really not there. So you're just taking the modern computerized production stuff and you're putting it together because this doesn't cost near the amount that, you know, putting together these people were. Now you still have big albums. Like, I mean, you know, Taylor Swift's not creating all of her stuff via computer, but you know, or even Jelly Roll. Well, most of his stuff is with the computer, but not all of it. But anyway, I'm just saying, like, you know, it's a matter of cost. Like the industry's not putting as much money into the album creations as they used to. Yeah. They're used to, you know, the artists I've known, I mean, they were in this, you know, most of the time they had, when they reached a certain level, they would book a studio for like, you know,
6 months.
Well, it wasn't 6 months, but like the actual studio where they're going to record and stuff in would be like a month, right? And they wrote some songs and come in there, and they have like all the time that they're using, and that's a really expensive endeavor. You're talking about real estate. The advanced stuff inside these recording studios are not cheap. Everything costs at least $1,000.
Well, here's my question though.
You'll
see guys go on the internet and make an amazing song that sounds good, and then you listen to the artist and they're like, I made it on my laptop with GarageBand and a mic I bought at Kohl's, and I'm like, but it sounds great. Why is it so expensive, especially with the advancement of technology, right?
Okay, here's what I'll tell you. There's a difference between sounding good and sounding amazing. Okay? The difference there is not going to be discernible by some people. But if you take it's like anything from like a nice speaker to like a multi-$1,000 speaker. It's the same thing. Most people will listen to both of them and can't tell a difference.
Fair enough.
But the fidelity on the other one that you just spent $10,000 on just this one speaker, it will, if you can hear it, it's a night and day difference.
But maybe that's the difference for me, right? Because I appreciate the sound of vinyl.
Right.
Vinyl's imperfect,
which is a fidelity thing.
I love the sound of a vinyl album. The imperfections, the silence between songs, I love it. Like I feel like it's very nostalgic, and it takes me back to a very, you know, a time where people had to really be careful about what they put on their album because they wanted people to buy the album. You couldn't just buy the song. See, I think that's something that drives me crazy is a lot of people will hear one song and say, whole album's got to be terrible. No. There's probably 5 or 6 gems on that album, but you're not willing to take the time to listen to it. Right. So
sometimes, man, sometimes it is pretty indicative though. I mean, depends on the
too,
artist.
though, how many albums have we bought where we didn't like the single that came out, but once we got into the album, there was some good stuff on there.
I mean, there are some things like that. Don't get me wrong. But people like we said it already. People aren't producing albums necessarily. They're just doing songs, man.
It's true.
You know,
well, that's when I'm shocked when I'll open my Spotify, because I use Spotify mainly because I love the algorithm on Spotify, because if I find a independent artist, it'll give me 50 other ones that I can just kind of filter through. But it amazes me when I see like new album from so-and-so, and I'm like, somebody made a whole album? It's almost like finding the you know, Ulysses Gold, right? I don't know.
Well, I mean, I don't know. But I still think in terms of albums. That's just what I grew up with. That's just how I think.
Me too.
Right. So even when my brothers have a project and they were doing some stuff, I mean, they still thought of it as an album. They released everything individually, but like it's still an album that's put together really as a group of songs, you know. Yeah. But I enjoyed playing on that too. That was really fun.
What is the name of that group?
We Came From Stars.
All right, y'all need to look it up because I've listened to it and it's freaking awesome. It really is. Like it's got a very Pink Floyd
Some of it is
kind of esque vibe.
It's post rock.
Yeah.
So it's different, but
Yeah.
I don't know. The one song I played on, I really enjoyed doing it. It was really cool. Being a featured artist on that track, it was really a lot of fun. But yeah, so I guess I just, it's just, I just wonder nowadays, unless you go on and you're a YouTube sensation with your music.
Well, even going back to when we watched those videos, we were watching those top videos on YouTube. I didn't know most of those people.
No, I don't know any of them really.
I didn't know most of them at all. Like
Yeah.
I think I knew one.
But you look at the video production on those are so much. Most of those were like really well done videography wise.
Yeah, they
right?
were.
I mean, because that's where like the ad revenue from YouTube.
True. Very true.
You know what I mean? It's like that's why they're doing all that. I mean, but
Very true.
but you're still not seeing those. That's what I mean. Like those videos and stuff are different than what the songs that you see on like your streaming platforms top. They're not. Those aren't on there.
Yeah.
I mean, well, a few of them are, but it's because because people want to watch the video for they want a short little, and I'm done.
Yeah.
That's anyway, if culture decides that it wants to put more importance in music again, I think that would be a great thing to do, but there is a decline there, which leads to all these other things. Like you don't have near as many musicians anymore. You don't have near as many people creating and producing music anymore.
Which, be honest, it sucks because, I mean, think about it. Think about, all right, so take the 40s and 50s, big band, soda pop, all that stuff. Malt shop music started to come into play that went along with the times in the 60s and early 70s with the Cultural Revolution. That music went along with the time. Going into, and I'll say it, and somebody's probably throwing rocks at the screen right now while they're watching this, as I say this, disco. Disco was an extravagant form of music based on a very Latin beat that matched a very eccentric time in our society where, Studio 54 and all those things. And then the 80s came in, and when synth pop blew up and MTV came in, then this new generation of sound came in. I feel like somewhere around 2010, it got out of sync. Like it was synced up so well up to that point. And then around 2010, like it all just got out of sync. And then you started to get this, these one song shot things coming out, and people were like, oh my gosh, did you hear that song? And then the artist vanishes and you never hear from them again.
That's what I mean. It just got to the point where it's not being pushed out as much. You don't have global sensations anymore or the revenue to support that kind of thing anymore. I don't think so.
Which makes me wonder how Taylor Swift, and I am not a Swiftie.
That's concert revenue too, though, man.
Yeah.
I mean, the artist gets a lot from the shows.
Yeah, but you got to admit, she's pretty intelligent in the sense that when she, like the whole thing she did in the theaters, like you want to go see a Taylor Swift show, she was making a piece on the back end of that.
For
so
sure.
like that was a very business savvy move on her part, because I'm sure that there's, even as globally large as she is, there still is not as much concert revenue as there used to be.
Yeah.
Right. Which also would go to, you're seeing a lot of smaller bands that aren't as huge yet playing in big venues because the big venues need to fill up. KFC Yum, has had some not huge artists come in there and play, got to fill the seats, man. You got to keep revenue coming in the building. So it's kind of a unique opportunity for any up and coming band that might be out there. But in the general sense, you're right. Like it's just a completely different generation.
Now here's one thing that wasn't discussed, but I think is incredibly important, especially for a guy like me, is classical music. So that has been a decline for a long time. Orchestras have been vanishing across the world for I don't know how long, but that's a as far as I'm concerned, that's still I wouldn't say it's like any necessarily like pure or whatever, but that there is I listen to more classical music than I do anything else. That's by far, by none. Like I don't really listen to Spotify or Pandora or any of that stuff. I actually have a Berlin Philharmonic subscription, and that's actually what I turn on when I'm listening to stuff during the day. Like I go through there and listen to a concert or something that they did from their streaming platform.
I appreciate classical music, but unfortunately, classical music is like golf to me.
I understand.
The moment it starts playing, it soothes me to the point where I go to sleep.
But not all of it will do that, by the way. But because there's some that's very different. But I digress. It's not really for that. But you got to have that. I believe that in order for the music, I don't know how you say it, the music culture of the world, you need classical music to be there.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a valid, legitimate form of music.
But not just that though. It's like it's without all of any of that modern like weirdness that annoys people. Auto-tune, whatever, fake this, fake that. No, it's pure. And that's what I think is you need that in order to have a successful musical culture.
Now, I've seen some stuff lately in classical music where there's been like some drums and some bass guitars, especially in the orchestra.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool that they've kind of found a way to.
Well, you see a lot in soundtracks too.
Yeah.
Right. So keep in mind that most of the soundtracks for big movies you hear are live symphony orchestras with added instrumentation and stuff like that. Right.
Yep.
All the Hans Zimmer stuff from Dune, Interstellar, man, he's done so many cool ones. Man of Steel, he's done all kinds of I watch those musics, I watch those movies almost just for the soundtrack as much as the movie itself, right?
Now, I will say that a movie that has good music, it can change the entire mood of the movie.
But that comes from there.
Yeah.
And I love Tron Legacy. It's another movie. I don't think it's like the great cinematography or like a cinema masterpiece, but I just love to watch it because of the way it looks and it sounds.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, it's, if you didn't have the sound of that.
Another one is the new Dune movie.
Well, that's what I was saying. Hans Zimmer.
That new Dune movie, that soundtrack is absolute. Because I put that in Dolby. And dude,
it's insane.
That is amazing.
And I mean and all that stuff though, like if you watch, read about or watch some of his stuff he's put out about how he did that. I mean, you're talking about all kinds of different instruments that they brought in, all kinds of different these percussion stuff and all kinds of different. Look, there's really not that many there is synth stuff in there, but it's not as much as you'd think.
Yeah.
Like it's incredible. Like Gladiator.
Yeah. Such a great soundtrack.
Listen to Gladiator, right? That opening scene with the the wheat and he's running his hands through there and you have the female vocal and all that stuff. And dude, you immediately feel something from that.
Dude,
it's so important.
I'll pull you a classic. Star Wars. Every episode of that movie, it starts off where it scrolls and it's like that.
Yeah, with that fanfare.
Dun, 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 dun. And you're immediately pulled into the movie because that music is just so good. It's so incredible. And, but I mean, and I mean, think about it this way. There are terrible movies that the soundtrack saved. One would be Dazed and Confused. That was a terrible movie. It's a terrible movie. But the soundtrack, they deep dove into some of the old classic rock albums and pulled out some songs that weren't normally played, and that saved that movie. I'm particularly a scary movie fan. If you go to Rob Zombie's remakes of Halloween, Nights in White Satin is not a scary song. It just isn't. He turned that into the most horrifying song I've ever heard by the way he placed it in the movie. And there's a buildup because you hear it. It starts off as this low background music. And then as this scene carries on, it just crescendos. And then all of a sudden this crazy horror thing goes down, and here's Knights in White Satin jamming in the background, and your mind is confused.
Yeah.
Because you're like, why? But it just puts everything in a different perspective. I think any song used well, whether it's classical music or anything else, if you place it properly within a movie, you'll change the entire atmosphere of the movie. I mean, even the Avatar movie, the soundtrack to that movie was incredible.
Well, okay. And even going back here, think about John Williams and what he did for like Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, when the whole thing comes on and you have all that stuff and everything, when they reach the island and it's like, you're like, whoa, yeah, look
That's
at
right.
that. You know,
It's a T-Rex.
you know, I mean, look, but all I'm saying is that classical music though is so imperative, but we seem to just not as a culture be even remotely appreciating it or even looking at it in a serious way anymore. And that used to be the pinnacle thing, you know.
Well, that used to be the height of music, like the height, the very upper crust, the upper level of music.
I can tell you from a musician standpoint that it's really hard not to have that still be, from a musicianship standpoint, not to have that still be the elite top thing. Now, for like electric guitar or like a drummer or something like that, you know, there's not really that place in that orchestral environment. But I mean, when I went to school for clarinet and saxophone, dude, I mean, that's what I was doing. And I mean, you know, that's what you always aspired to be, was like that, you know. And then what is what it is just that, because, and I tell you what, this is even going back way when I was in high school, but the reason why I didn't even continue that venture really was because of the decline in, you couldn't hardly get a job in an orchestra because they were disappearing. Even then, we're talking 25 years ago, disappearing. And it's like, well, if they're, I mean, where am I going to go? Because that's what I wanted to be. That's it. I wanted to play in a professional orchestra. That's what I wanted to do. And I could have. That's where I was. I was preparing for auditions, but there was going to any of the auditions. The income was really mediocre.
Yeah.
At best, it's really, really low. And you were auditioning against, you know, like 1,500 people who are just like you, you know, and it's just for one seat in an orchestra. It's crazy. But that's how, yeah. So it is the pinnacle of a lot of different musical instrument genres, I would say. You know, you're not going to go anywhere with an oboe except with.
We're not going to jam out on the oboe.
I mean,
come on, bro. I need an oboe solo now.
Was somebody going to play the tuba on a rock song? Well, I guess that'd be kind of cool.
It's possible. Lots of things are possible.
Oompa
okay,
music.
So here's my question.
Okay, yeah.
This natural progression of what we're talking about is, what do you think the effect of AI will have on music?
Well, you can generate a lot of music from AI. I mean, because because what AI does in that particular venture, knowing that my company does AI stuff, is, I mean, it just goes and searches for whatever genre you ask it for. It'll say like what the chord structures and what's the timbre and all that kind of stuff. And it'll just pull all that from everything else and just put it together. Well,
one of the crazy things is I was watching a YouTube video and a guy took ChatGPT and he wrote a song through ChatGPT and then took the music. ChatGPT literally wrote the notes out, wrote the structure out. He took the song, played it, and it actually wasn't bad. And he says in the video, he goes, "This is not mine." He goes, "This was created by ChatGPT," you know? And I was like, man, what does that say for the future of musicians? That ChatGPT can go in and write a pretty decent song.
But see, it's not creating anything new.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the thing that people need to understand about AI. It can't create anything new. It's going to take information from all these different places and put it together. That may be something different than what you've seen before, but it's not just being creative.
It's not being written.
Right.
Yeah, I got you.
So there's always, and look, there's some intricacies of musicianship that AI is not going to be able to reproduce.
Makes sense.
So it should, electronic music, I'm sure it has no issues with stuff like that.
Yeah.
Even like metal music, or even like some rock music and country music and stuff.
Yeah, the guy wrote it. It was kind of a rock song. Like
Yeah,
a pop
I mean,
rock song.
You know, it's not, you're not going to have, now it won't be no like Stevie Ray Vaughan or like, you know, Eddie Van Halen or anything like that. But I'm saying to just produce an actual song, sure.
Yeah.
But you won't get that top level of.
Well, it doesn't create moments either. I mean, real musicians lead to real musical moments. One that sticks in my mind is Dimebag Darrell, before he passed away, tried to reach out to Eddie Van Halen. He wanted the guitar that Eddie Van Halen played in Jump, the one that had the white tape on it and all that stuff, and Eddie wouldn't sell it. He's like, I won't sell it for any amount of money. Well, when Dimebag Darrell passed away, being unannounced, Eddie Van Halen showed up to Dimebag Darrell's funeral and put that guitar in his casket. And he was like, nobody on earth deserves it more than he does, and buried him with that guitar. Real music creates those moments.
Yeah.
Right? Real input, real musicians, real respect, real time in creates moments like that.
Yeah.
So we see these. It doesn't matter what you do with a auto-tune machine. It doesn't matter what you do with you know, AI. You can't create those moments, right?
No, and this goes back to your question about why it costs so much. You can't capture those moments without top flight, awesome equipment.
Very true. Very true.
You can't. There's a reason why there's consoles that, like, you know, Dave Grohl went through all the trouble to put together got the old console from the recordings and stuff that they did because of the magic it created.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. There's elements to this that it just happens.
Oh, by the way, did you hear that Paul McCartney got reunited with his bass that was stolen 50 years ago? He finally got it back.
No.
Yeah, man. Some guy showed up and they had his bass and gave it back to him.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
50 years, dude.
Yeah. 50 years it was gone. Now he's got it back. That's nuts, dude.
That is nuts.
Saw that on a headline. I was like, what is that? And I opened it up, and apparently some dude got stolen, and he replaced it, and out of nowhere this dude shows up with his bass. I don't know what he had to do to hunt down Sir Paul McCartney, but apparently he was a pretty good sleuth. So Again, another one of those moments in music, right? So,
all right. So look, I would just final thoughts here. I think that we as a culture need to put more importance into music. I don't know if there's any way to go to find, you know, to do something with that. I really don't.
Okay, there's something I wanted to say.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Here it goes.
I'm getting off track, but I have to say this. Okay, so most Christian music mainstream is pretty bad. I'm just going to say it.
Yes.
A lot of it's really bad. And the other day, I was trying to think of a situation where I heard music that had a God theme to it that was good. Now, most people would look at me and say, DC Talk or Third Day. No. And everybody's going to think this is laughable. Creed. Say what you want. My Sacrifice. Arms Wide Open. Those were songs that were written from Scott Stapp that were based in his spiritual walk at that time. They were very honest, right? If any Christian artist is out there listening, if you want to make people want to listen to Christian music in a mainstream way, Another band that does it is 1,000 Foot Crutch, right? Be honest with what you're writing, right? Stop looking for the, the next hymn. I feel like every Christian musician is chasing the next hymn.
I don't even feel like that, though.
I feel like it's the next old rugged cross, right? And I get that. Don't get me wrong. It's nice from time to time to hear the old rugged cross. It's nice from time to time to hear How Great Thou Art. Those are great songs, right? Those are very powerful songs for their time. But if I was to advise as a fan, as just a fan of music, and I have no musical talent whatsoever if I strum a guitar, it'll explode. If you want people like me to connect to the music that you're making, stop looking to make the next hymn and start looking to make the next Arms Wide Open, the next true rock song that talks about God or your experience with God, instead of trying to write this poetic, verse repeat that happens, right? Sorry, I just had to say that.
Well, we could. I just have a lot of negative stuff about modern Christian music. I mean, there's not all negative, don't get me wrong, but like, I just don't. I think the Christian music industry is controlled and puts out. It doesn't seek anything but its own glory. Yeah, it's very well, and I'll be honest, that's really what it is to me, and I don't. There's a reason why I'm not sitting playing in a worship group anymore. I just don't. I'm just not enchanted by that thing. And when you play at a church, they want to play what's on the radio for their congregation.
Yeah. And
that's what I don't like, what's on the radio, because some of the stuff on the radio isn't biblical.
Well,
is it theologically even correct?
All right, let's go along with like Hillsong, right? Like if you watched the Hillsong documentary that they had, it's quite saddening.
I didn't watch it because I already know.
But it put some things in like visual for me. I'm a visual kind of guy,
okay.
Right? So a lot of the stuff that Hillsong writes is gitchy is the best word I can use. Like, it's not catchy. But it's gimmicky, so I call it gitchy. Like, it's not, it's like, do not my feet upon the water. And okay, we all know that Jesus walked on water, bro. We know you're trying to create that image.
But Oceans is a fan. I love that song.
It's a good song, but it's still it's got this every Christian song.
Oh,
rhythm,
yeah. I
right?
mean, every
like.
Well, the thing is that what Christian music did was they found this formula that said, "Hey, this is how we can create an impact. Let's do this," and they only do that now.
Yeah.
Like, you can't. That's what I don't like. Like this. If you're that unimaginative about your freaking music, then how is that representing the God Most High, man? I mean, I don't.
One of the best Christian songs ever written, man, was Norman Greenbaum, "Spirit in the Sky." Because it isn't agenda driven, right? It's just a dude singing about his love of God, man, and about having a friend in Jesus, right? Like, it's. And I feel like if people chased the spirit of that song and tried to really just pour into, another great song that was religiously based, and I know Prince was a Jehovah's Witnesses, but The Cross. If you listen to that song off the Sign of the Times album, that song will move you if you listen to it. Like, because it talks about, black days, stormy nights, no love, no hope in sight. Don't cry for he's coming. Don't die without knowing the cross, right? Like, there was a message, but it was so good. Sorry. All right. Rabbit trail. My bad. Sorry.
I won't say anything else because I'll keep talking.
I know, because you and I could talk about music all night long.
Yeah, maybe, but it's just, I would just get irritated.
I don't think you would. I think if I plied you with enough tobacco and some good spirits, you'd be fine.
Probably. But we're R&B Talks.
2 chairs, 2 guys, 2 mics. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.